What makes someone a bad person? What makes them deserve to suffer, deserve to die? I don't know, but this anime that I watched seems to be trying to answer that question. Attack on Titan Season 4 takes a lot of possible answers to the questions I asked and uses its story to explain why those answers don't make sense. There are a few levels of this moral reasoning, and I think I'll start with the most broad. People are bad because their ancestors or race did bad things. I think most people would already disagree with this, but let's see how Attack on Titan discusses it. In whatever episode this was, Gabi has a nice conversation with Kaya about how her mom deserved to die just like all the rest of the Eldians, since way in the past the Eldian Empire was horrible and murdered and enslaved countless people. Kaya counters this by pointing out that her mom was not alive back then, and so she had no part in the atrocities Gabi described. Gabi then brings up the recent Eldian attack as proof of Kaya's mother's evil, but Kaya counters this by saying that her mom had no part in this attack either, since she was dead when it happened. Kaya's point here is clear. People are not their ancestors. Not everyone in a group is the same. An individual's moral standing can only be determined by their own actions. Therefore, Kaya's mother did not deserve to die just because she was born an Eldian. This goes for the other side as well. The Marleyan military dictatorship sponsors the oppression of Eldians, so if Gabi is Marleyan, does that mean she is a bad person? Attack on Titan says no, because Gabi being Marleyan doesn't mean she is taking part in evil actions. That was the easy part, which most people probably agree with. Everyone is an individual, and so they should be judged by their individual actions. So let's judge some individual actions, because the next level of Attack on Titan's moral reasoning is people are bad because they do bad things. This way of thinking should answer our Gabi question pretty quickly. Gabi killed Sasha, killing people is bad. Therefore, Gabi is bad. But what about this scene? If morality is determined purely by actions, then shouldn't Armin also be considered a bad person for killing whoever that was? I think most of you would say no, some of you would say yes, and I would say, maybe, but I'm gonna focus on that no answer. The reason why you answered no is probably because it was in self-defense. Armin pulled the trigger in order to save his friend, but this means that a person's harmful actions aren't the only thing that make them a bad person. Their intentions behind the action also matter. Attack on Titan spells this out pretty explicitly in the Season 4 basement scene. In this scene, Eren's current actions and intentions are compared to Reiner and Marley's past attack on the walls. Reiner talks about how their operation was carried out in order to save humanity. When Reiner asks why Eren is in Marley now, Eren says that he is there for the same reason, to save humanity. With this, Attack on Titan portrays the war as a conflict between a duality, two sides which have both justified their violent actions against the other. But what this highlights for the case of Gabi is that both sides in any war believe that what they are doing is correct. While from an audience perspective, it is likely for us to perceive one side as good and the other as bad, this basement scene serves as a reminder to us that to everyone participating in the war, their side is good. And if we're factoring in thoughts and intentions, it becomes a lot harder to call Gabi a bad person for wanting to kill the Eldians. From her point of view, they are devils trying to destroy the world. Of course, her worldview is misguided, but can we really call her a bad person for doing what she thinks will save humanity? I think Attack on Titan wants us to say no. A person can't really be considered morally at fault for their actions if they don't know that what they are doing is bad. Or at least, it's trying to tell us that Gabi is doing bad things for reasons we can understand. And through that understanding, we can think of ways to stop her from doing bad things. If there was some way to teach her that her worldview was wrong, then we could fix her, I guess. So then the final level should be, people are bad because they do bad things with bad intentions. But there's still one more important scene that even questions that. Let's ignore Gabi's possible good intentions for a moment. Let's say she infiltrated this airship with the intention of cold-blooded murder. She shot Sasha in the back and was about to kill more if Falco hadn't stopped her. Later, she finds a man who loved the person she murdered and brags to him about it. Niccolo responds exactly how we would expect him to, and then carries Gabi up to Sasha's father. With the knife in his hand, he finally has a chance to carry out justice. But he doesn't kill her. Sasha and Gabi were soldiers fighting on opposite sides of a war, so It just makes sense that one of them would kill the other if they crossed paths. So Mr. Browse isn't even bringing up intentions as a reason for sparing Gabi. The situation that she was in is enough for him to understand. Okay, so then in addition to people's intentions, the situation a person is in might also exempt them from being a bad person. I guess you could include Gabi's radical indoctrination as part of the situation which has turned her into what she is today. And since she did not choose to be born in Marley, we cannot blame her for being indoctrinated. It's not her fault that she has a misguided worldview, and so it's not her fault that her good intentions lead to bad things happening. Wait, hold on a second. If Gabi's worldview and personality were things she had no control over, and those two things are what control her decisions, then does she really have control over her actions? They were decided by factors out of her control, therefore factors outside of her control are what determine her choices, and that goes for all humans. Our personalities and worldviews were shaped by things we had no control over, things we didn't choose. We were all born with our own sets of possibilities, which we did not choose ourselves, and so we have no choice in the factors which determine our choices. Guys, do we really have free will? Okay. We should back up a bit. Some people hurt others because they want power. Some people hurt others because it genuinely gives them joy. But if we include someone's upbringing as part of this situation thing, then can we really consider anyone's moral standing as a fault of their own? Let's try to think of someone completely evil. Let's say they have a stable job, great mental health, no reason to kill anybody, but then one day they wake up and decide to feed children to their dogs. They have no intentions behind their actions other than the suffering of others, and they don't seem to be in a situation that would call for what they have done. However, no one would commit an action like this if they had been properly taught by their society that feeding children to dogs is not a good thing to do. Society failed this hypothetical person. If Armin had dogs, would he feed random children to them? No, I don't think so. So why does this guy do it? I guess he wasn't properly taught that it was bad to do this. He commits terrible acts because other people failed him. So wait, are there like no bad people? Maybe. No, I don't think that makes sense. So let's back up even more. I think the most important question that Attack on Titan asks in this scene is, what would killing Gabi do? What would be the purpose of ending her life? I guess you could say that it would prevent a dangerous person from harming others, but you can do that without killing her too. Teach her what's wrong about her worldview while some heavily armed guards stand around just in case. You get the same end result without ending someone's life. So does Gabi deserve to die? I mean, she's done some bad things, and as long as you still believe in free will, you might say that those actions make her deserve at least some form of punishment. However, even if you still think she deserves to die, Attack on Titan says that Gabi should not die. Once an action has been made, it cannot be undone. Killing Gabi will not bring Sasha back to life, and while it would eliminate her ability to do anything bad in the future, it also takes away her ability to learn and grow as a person. It is the burden of us adults to shoulder the sins and hatred of the past. The only thing that can be done now to help society is make sure that Gabi redeems herself. Because of its questioning of free will and detailed explorations of characters' motives and backstories, Attack on Titan doesn't have a clear answer to questions like, does Gabi deserve to die, or is Gabi a bad person? Instead, it says that Gabi shouldn't die, that those questions are stupid and dumb, and they miss what's important. Attack on Titan wants us to blame causes instead of people. Everyone in the show is a victim of something. Victims of violence, radicalization, oppression, war, loss. And the show tells us to blame these instead of the people caught up in them. People do bad things for reasons we can understand, and that we as a society can work to solve. Gabi's genocidal mindset is not the result of her waking up one day and deciding it would be fun. It is the result of her entire life's journey within a system that has told her that the Eldians are less than people. The real enemies in Attack on Titan are systems of injustice and the ideas that perpetuate them, which can only be destroyed with education, not bloodshed. Killing Gabi does not stop her from being racist. It forces her to never have the chance to be a good person. Gabi's worldview by the end of season 4 is already radically challenged by the simple fact that Mr. Browse doesn't hate her and that Armin and Mikasa don't care about killing her. She's beginning to see how the devils she had always heard about were really just people the whole time, showing how even the most radical of brainwashed child soldiers can fight their prejudices as long as they are given the chance to do so. Even if Gabi is a bad person now, even if she deserves some sort of punishment, I don't care about defining things that way. No one should die a misguided extremist, a victim of the circumstances they were born into, defined solely by the losses they suffered and the horrible things those losses pushed them to do. There are only good people and people who need help. That's what Attack on Titan tells me. Wow, I'm like such a great person because I don't feel uncontrollable bloodlust towards this 12-year-old girl.